Thank you.
Water center for you guys. Okay. Get my questions out. So let's just dive right in. Bright Moments and Dezentral. You guys are both building these global NFT communities. What inspired you to found your communities? Did you have like a specific goal in mind? Was there a need in the marketplace, a need in LA or Berlin that you saw, or online? I'd just love to hear the founding story behind both your projects. Fabian, can we start with you?
Do we also do a quick introduction or later?
Sure, you can have a quick introduction. Go ahead.
Okay, maybe no one knows.
This can be part of the
okay,
intro.
I'm Fabian. I've built Musee Dezentral. I'm here with Reshape, this is my co-founder. We build Metaverse experiences in the browser, so virtual worlds. Let's do it later. Virtual worlds in the browser, and we have a lot of Web3 clients. And after building all these client projects, we decided to build our own massive Metaverse museum. It's 3 floors. It's multiplayer. You have avatars, voice chat. And the special thing about it is we don't curate the museum, the art, but the community does. So we have 222 individual frames that are distributed along the museum, and each frame is an NFT that's actually also distributed through Chainlink, VRF. And if you own an NFT, you can upload or connect your NFT, upload an image, and it shows in the museum. So our museum is curated by the token holders. Yes.
Thanks, Fabian.
And yes, this is our first NFT project. And as I said, after building all these projects for clients, we thought, yes, let's use our expertise to build ourselves a community of artists and curators that want to be active in metaverse and digital art spaces.
Hello everyone, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm Jesse from Los Angeles and have been on a world tour with Phil and a lot of our team members, Avi and Antonio, who are here, my girlfriend Lucy. Who's also traveling with us. But to answer your question, why did we want to start a community that was international, local, feeling at the same time? Coming out of COVID, all of us experienced COVID in a different way, and we were looking for a new way to establish meaningful connections with individuals, communities, projects, artists, and we really just launched in kind of a very simple objective: hold space to have local projects kind of expand and flourish through that. It's turned into a very large event that we're hosting here now in Berlin, which we'll talk about in a bit. But essentially just how do you allow people to connect in a way that's meaningful, and NFTs being a key component of our project has really established kind of a common conversation and thread through what we're doing. Phil?
Hey guys, I'm Phil. I thought you covered it well. Yeah, it's really exciting. Berlin is our 3rd physical city and 4th city total. Our first city, we like to say, is in the Metaverse. And so we have 6 more to go over the next 2 years. And so we're really excited to meet a bunch of people, including all of you here.
Thanks, guys. So both your projects are part of this sort of global movement. Yours is decentralized and online. Yours is international and in many ways also decentralized and online. But behind both your projects, there's this sort of story. You have crypto citizens. You have these community curated frames. Can you talk a little bit about the meaning behind that? Why it's so important to be a crypto citizen? Why it's so important that you've used decentralized technology to create a new type of community curation? We'll start with you guys.
So the Crypto Citizens are a generative art project, and it started with the Crypto Venetians. It was originally not intended to be an international community. It was intended just for Venice, and The way that it works is we use Art Blocks, which is this amazing technology platform that allows you to upload JavaScript directly to the Ethereum blockchain. And it's generative, meaning that at the moment of minting, not the artist, not the creator, nobody knows what the outcome is going to look like. And we realized very early on that there was this kind of magic to that, where people would receive their crypto Venetian and have this moment of reveal that was just like pure joy, right? We based all the attributes of the crypto Venetians on real people that we saw in Venice, kind of these wacky characters. Like all of you live in Berlin, I'm sure you've seen some people wearing some crazy things. I know I've been here for about 5 weeks and I've seen more leather here than in my entire life. In Venice, we have our own kind of fits. There's a lot of tie-dye, there's a lot of dreadlocks, and so it was kind of fun to memorialize these people that we knew in this way, and it very quickly turned into not just a local Venice thing, but a United States. We had people fly in from all the way across the country to just mint their crypto Venetian. And when the crypto Venetian collection was coming to an end, we realized that it would be a shame to stop in one city. And so we came up with this idea for the Crypto Citizens, which are 10 cities all over the world, 10 unique 1,000 character collections. We went to New York next, now we're here in Berlin, we're going to London after this, and in each city we go to, we add more people from the local community until we get to 10,000. And it's just a really interesting experiment in governance. I've learned more about the New York community, the Berlin community, living here through this experience than I had when I lived in New York, because you just don't get outside of your bubble, and this has given us such a great opportunity to meet people. So.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, as told before, we have this museum, and what do you want to do as an art collector or as an artist? You want to show off your work, and it's very hard to find a community or people that really are willing to look at your work. So there's some galleries like OnCyber, for example, where you can place your art or your NFTs in a virtual world, but nobody sees it. There's no one that sees these galleries besides big influencers that have the audience already. So we built this museum, and to change the exhibitions to attract more people from all over the world and give the people that own a frame and our community that can curate an exhibition in our rooms the possibility to show their works. Cool, Frank is already in the museum. For example, you're on the Hall of Fame, where we showcase some of the most important NFT projects. I don't know what this one is. So this, for example, is our exhibition room for the community. So every 2 weeks, our community and the frame holders can decide which artworks are here inside this room. For example, this is a charity exhibition for Ukraine. It's called Putin is a Dick. And yeah. And on the other side, there's another exhibition room with a curated exhibition, for example. And as I said, these exhibitions are curated by the community, by everyone that's in Discord, and they can participate. And Frank, if you want to continue to the actual museum.
Yeah. It's multiplayer, so whenever somebody joined, we would see the guy and could also have a conversation with him. Unfortunately, at the moment, I'm alone.
Yeah, it's all in the browser, and also
Browser-based.
VR, smartphone, whatever. And so this is the first room. These are very expensive frames because we somehow need to make some profit. That's why nobody minted these yet. Only one, and he put a Ukraine flag in it. So the people that mint the frame can decide what they want to show us.
I'm gonna go
And it's linked to OpenSea. Yeah, in the upper floors there's some more frames from the community. Okay, Frank, do you want to mute it maybe? Then we can continue.
Music, sorry.
Oh, I think it's enough, right?
Yeah,
I
I mean, you can continue talking, and I probably just walk up to the third floor.
Thanks, Frank.
So we wanted to give artists and collectors a platform to show off their work and build the MoMA of the Metaverse, an art institution Metaverse where people are proud to show their work. And we are constantly evolving this museum with other kinds of museums, for example, museums for street arts or for sound installations. So build a massive, taken back by the NFT community.
A new type of experience.
New type of experience.
I love that. And let's give Frank a round of applause for this awesome project. Thank you, Frank. So yeah, what I love about both your projects is you're creating these unique, new experiences that people have not seen before. I went to the Bright Moments minting on last Friday. That was really cool, being in the nuclear control panel room. This gentleman, I forget his name, he helped me out in the second floor, helped me get my NFT and my QR code and everything, and then I was led by these wonderful women to the beam of light where I minted my NFT. You're creating these really unique online experiences that are community curated. I'm wondering in what ways you see NFTs utilizing technology in new ways, in novel ways. You guys both use Chainlink VRF for your minting. What are some other ways that you see on the horizon that will change the way people interact with their NFTs or interact with a digital real-world experience?
So on Saturday, we had an amazing artist, Aletta Sun, who's based here in Berlin, and she dropped an NFT collection that was actually based on live projection mapping of light in a space. So her NFTs were actually renderings that she used to do the projection mapping. So she had a live performance where she had dancers, and we pretty much turned off the lights, and through a projector she was showing basically the science behind the NFT that she had created and using it in a practical way to do a performance. But collectors minted a generative piece, which was a variation of her performance. So that's one way to think about it from an artistic standpoint. Love to hear Phil's maybe answer.
Yeah, our use of kind of crypto as a DAO has been somewhat interesting. Early on, when Bright Moments started, we used ERC20 tokens, fungible tokens, kind of the ones that many people are familiar with. And it was a way to help people feel as though they were a part of the organization, had a voting power. And we gave these out. We didn't have any money. We had these tokens. We minted 10 million of them. And when people showed up to meetings and they contributed, you got a grant of a few thousand tokens. And it was an interesting kind of social dynamic, because even though we weren't really using the tokens for voting, it was symbolic. You had a wallet and you had these tokens in them. And as we made the transition to this crypto citizen denominated DAO, what we discovered was crypto as a technology actually gives you capabilities that are not possible without it, or at least it makes it so much easier that it becomes possible to do things as a startup, as a new organization, that would not be otherwise possible. I'll give you an example, with voting. Trying to get people to vote and being confident that the results are not being scammed or manipulated in some way is really, really difficult. But when you mint 1,000 people in person and give them an NFT, and then they use that cryptographic signature to prove that they are the person voting, you can be pretty damn sure that the results of the vote are accurate. And we've used that voting system as a way to decide where we should go next, to what cities. So we're going to 10 cities over 2 years. Where we're going after London, we don't know, but we know that the crypto citizen community is going to vote on it. And if you had told us that we needed to build that without blockchain, we wouldn't have done it, because it would have taken an engineering team 2 years. But it came out of the box with NFTs. And so we try to look for these areas where crypto and NFTs give us superpowers, like authentication, like governance, that you can't do with Web 2 technologies, and lean into that, because that is our advantage against other types of organizations that are trying to build community. So.
Yeah, this was a good example for the governance case. From the art side, so there are two ways to store the art from an NFT. Either you do it on-chain, so the art is directly on-chain, for example, SVG code or little pixel code, because you don't have that much storage on the blockchain, or you link to the image, to a file. But in both ways, you can update the art and the image afterwards by the contract, or even manually. So that means, if you think about it, you own a piece of art that can be manipulated and changed by the owner, by the distributor. So you can create an artwork that ages or that changes with the time. That's still unique and yours. I have an example. For example, I own one of these creature NFTs. This one 10,000 PFP collection, and it's just an image, but they have some cool utility. For example, if you connect your NFT to their website, you enter also a virtual metaverse experience, and you can play some games. And depending on what games you played and who you met on this journey, your image changes and updates. So after this experience, after this game, your image changed and aged and has these experiences with you.
Awesome. So you're creating this new type of art, experience, and it doesn't really, and you're actually also creating this new type of institution. Yours is international, yours is decentralized and online. Why haven't traditional art institutions sort of like come into this space and gobbled everything up? I mean, they're quite powerful, I imagine. Where's the lack of embrace for this digital art for NFTs in general? Fabian, let's start with you.
I also got a good example here. We developed a virtual museum for Wolfgang Beltracchi. He's the most famous art forger in the world. And what he does was not like forge paintings, but he recreated paintings in the style of Max Ernst, Picasso, and he brought it to the market, and he tricked the art institutions, he tricked museums, he tricked investors that paid like 20 millions for his paintings. And after his forgery was came to the public, he went to jail, and art institutions and also museums banned him from exhibiting. So the whole art industry, the auction houses, the museums, the galleries banned Wolfgang Beltracchi because they were not amused, even though he's the best painter in the world, because he can paint everything and like every big artist. And what he does was create an NFT collection where he forged the most famous painting of all time, the Salvator Mundi by Da Vinci, in the styles of Picasso, Warhol, whatever. And we built a virtual museum for it. And why he did it was because it was the only way normal people are able to buy Beltracchi, because of internet and blockchain technology, distributed in the internet and with the proof of authenticity. Even though he was banned from all the conventional art institutions. Sorry for my English, I'm very excited and no native speaker.
I think there actually are a lot of art institutes that are embracing digital art and NFTs, which is awesome to see, especially in the last 6 months. Expeditions are happening where you now see a digital screen or a digital section, or spaces where conversations are being held to discuss NFTs for artists that know nothing about it. I think it is a positive indication that a lot of these more traditional institutions are open to the idea of including NFT works in their portfolio and in their promotional exhibits. I think it also starts to really question what is art? And I think art is what we perceive it to be. So for our project, bringing collectors in person with the creator and actually allowing them to experience an NFT together at that moment of creation continues to build that relationship between art, the creator, and the collector. So I think that is what has been really important for our project, to actually still provide a platform to different types of art and still include that in an environment where you do a show, you do an opening, and it actually feels very synonymous to a traditional art world. Okay.
So you guys are sort of changing this art relationship experience. How do you see sort of this decentralized technology, this new way of bridging the gap between the fan and the creator? How is that making the art world better now and 10 years from now or 20 years from now?
I mean, I think Jesse touched on it. We unintentionally ran a little bit of a controlled experiment here where one of our collaborations with an artist, Aaron Penne and Beretta, was called Rituals. It was a 1,000 piece collection, and 200 of the mints were done in person over a 50-hour minting marathon. So our whole team stayed up for 50 hours straight. People purchased passes ahead of time that allowed them to come in person to the Bright Moments Gallery in Venice and experience that moment of reveal. Rituals is an audio-visual experience. We got a 4-point sound system and a 90-inch screen, and you sat in like the zero-gravity chair, and like and people walked out of there and their faces were just totally like insane. Like we asked them, they didn't even know words. And those were the first 200 pieces of the collection could only be minted online. People flew in from all over the world. We had people come in from all over. And then pieces 201 through 1,000 could be minted online from behind a computer screen. And we look at the prices on the secondary market, and people are not willing to sell the artwork that they got in person. The floor is 10 times higher. People just don't sell them. And it's because they had that experience, and because they met the artist, because they were there in person. And we kind of ran that experiment unintentionally. Now a lot of what we do is we try to push people towards being in person after we had that realization. But I just think in the NFT world, it's so easy to do things online, and there's so many benefits to being able to be international from day one and be decentralized and be global. But we've kind of leaned into this do it more difficult, because I think especially for artists, it can sometimes be difficult to not have that feedback loop. Traditional artists are used to putting on a show, meeting their collectors, having a gallery space. And when you combine like the monetization benefits of cryptocurrency with this kind of physical experience of meeting your collectors, I think that's where artists really win. And that's where we're going to keep trying to lean into, because it gives artists, I think, a stronger connection.
Awesome. Fabian, do you have anything to add there? No? Okay, cool. Let's give the panelists a round of applause. Thank you guys for joining this time. I want to open up to audience Q&A. So
I actually have a question.
Oh yeah.
Who is your interior designer for the gallery? That was like, did you guys hire an architect or?
No, we're a small team, only 6 people, and we have one brilliant 3D designer. He can build everything.
It's like amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
White marble's very cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, any questions from the audience? Yeah.
Hey, I would just to the last thing to fill what you just said. That's actually something that I just bumped my head against like the last couple of days. I'm a crypto Berlin now, which is beautiful, and you should all go and watch it. It's absolute magic. And so I try to, because I know a couple of people from like the, let's say, traditional art world, and I had a hard time just bringing that to them. It's the whole like onboarding people to crypto thing, and the most common response I get is just like, you know, that's nice, but that's just not for me. That's just not my world. And it rhymes perfectly with the most recent Art Basel report. I'm still new to the scene, so I try to like go through it, and the punchline is the space that we're covering with like NFTs and like just the digital stuff. It's very, very tiny in comparison to the traditional art world. And I was wondering if you had any just tips on how to approach the traditional artwork so we can flood the halls of the craft work with them. It will be beautiful.
I have no idea. I think like the nice thing about art is it doesn't have to be for everybody. And I think the interesting things that we're seeing about generative art, digital art, NFTs is the growth rate. And so relative to traditional art world, it's very, very small, but the growth rate has been absolutely incredible. And if it keeps up at this rate, it will continue to become become a larger and larger part of the mainstream art discussion. And so a lot of what we're focused on doing is finding artists who are not traditionally crypto savvy, but they are generative artists, or they are digital artists, or they're physical artists who are interested, and we try to onboard them to give them the tools. So I mean, we recently worked with Holger Lippmann, and maybe you were a part of that journey. Do you want to talk a little bit about how we onboarded him?
Just into the NFT space,
Yeah.
or? Yeah, so Holger is also a Berlin-based artist, and he's been working on generative coding, or creative coding, for the last 30 years. And he's just started putting stuff on Tezos, and then more recently, we actually got introduced him to another artist we worked with in New York, and introducing him to an NFT drop, like just as like a concept for him to produce his collection, wasn't like unfamiliar to him, but wasn't something that he was really considering as a part of his creative process. So by approaching him, giving him like, hey, like we're doing a show in Berlin, we'd love to have you participate. You know, our team has pretty much worked with him along the ways of not helping him create his art, but helping him have a process for going to market in a way that maybe he didn't understand before. And now he's like, okay, I got it. I'm going to do this next drop here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to like work with my collectors in this way. And like his like wheels are just spinning now in a way that is awesome to see. I don't think NFTs are the answer all the time, but I think sometimes it just makes such sense, and people just aren't aware that this is a platform for them. So a lot of what we do is actually demonstrate how that platform can work, and just offer, you know, knowledge. I think offering knowledge and paying it forward is a large part of what you were saying, onboarding people into crypto, is really just paying it forward in a lot of ways. Like all of us remember the first time we downloaded our first wallet, got some ETH or any other type of cryptocurrency. Wasn't easy. Sometimes you had to install a VPN, do something sketchy, but I think really it's just a matter of how do we continue to educate and not forget how difficult it was at first, and assume that like, oh yeah, you're starting from the very beginning, like know these 5 things.
No, it's good. Oh.
Any other questions in the audience? To you, then you.
Hi, so I have a question to, your name was Fabian, right? Okay, so I have a question which is a bit technical, so I'm still trying to understand the connection better between like NFTs and Metaverse applications. So the Musee Dezentral that you showed, for example, is it like basically like a web application running on one of your servers, which then goes to grab the artwork from, like it basically grabs the NFTs, which are then stored on the blockchain, right? Okay.
Yeah. So it's not fully decentralized. There are parts and microservices that you can use to go fully decentralized. For example, you can use decentralized file system like IPFS or Arweave that store your files on a decentralized network. You can use the Ethereum contract to grab the main info, like who's the owner, what are the last transactions, what's the current like artwork that's behind the token. And you can also use NFTs, for example, as an access key to Metaverse applications. For example, if you want to have your virtual living room and you only want people from a specific community to be able to enter it, you check the MetaMask, check if they own this NFT, and then you give them access. So you can use NFTs for all types of interaction with static websites.
Hi guys. So for classical art, there's the point of when the artist becomes mostly popular is when he dies. So he cannot produce any more art, right? For the NFT space, there are multiple things. It's how do you, because the entry barriers are so low in the future, so the market is gonna fill up with more and more artists that are just gonna bombard it with more art. How are you gonna differentiate yourself from this? It's on the one side, these experiences that you create unique venues, or what is your further plan to keep it unique, to keep this, the special flavor in?
I think these two guys did a way better job, because we already also didn't put our main focus on it. We did more like the technology side instead of the community building. And this was a big thing we missed, to build a real big community, to attract fans that burn for your project, that do the marketing for you in the later process, actually, and people that invest in your idea because they believe in you, and they hope that the project will grow. And I think the Bright Moments peeps did a great job. I think they have better ideas.
Well, I'm first out of your project because you guys said you do curation, right? And my answer to your question is curation, right? That, like, working with curators that are constantly learning about artists, new artists, or artists that are in different spaces around the world, and having a community that is willing to support all types of art. Like, a big part of our mission is holding spaces for like very casual art shows, but also having larger platforms for more like higher scale production art. So I think it's, how do you have an on-ramp for artists that want to present works but maybe don't have an audience yet, but you give them a small platform, and then how do you help them grow through their career to have a larger platform if that's something they want to pursue. But I think, like, as more and more things are added to the network, or all these different protocols, it's going to be harder and harder for people to navigate, like, is this project worth being a participant in? Is this worth collecting? I don't have a good answer for that. I think it's going to really come down to, I mean, in Web 2, like, it became a really, marketing became in ads. And, like, I hope Web 3 doesn't move in that direction. So I think that's going to be up to everyone in this room to figure out, how do we best serve each other with content that is genuine.
I think for many artists, the interesting thing about NFTs and crypto is you don't need a huge audience. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept of like 1,000 true fans. It's this great blog post, I think from maybe Derek Sivers or someone, about 10 years ago, which was, you know, for the first time the internet allows you to find 1,000 people who resonate with your idea, and maybe if they're willing to pay you $100 a year, you can have a lifestyle off of that. And I think for the first time, artists don't need to go work for a corporation or do projects that they don't really like, but they can find 1,000 people that are willing to pay them and make a living off of that, or at least supplement their income so they can work on things that they enjoy doing. And so I think bigger is not always better, and like Jesse mentioned, we try to give a platform to people in our community. Crypto citizens are welcome to do something we call Project Spotlight, which every Thursday, if you hold a crypto citizen, allow you to use our display technology to do a meetup just like this with people in our local communities and share the projects that they're working on. And that sometimes gives way to, hey, we realize there's a lot of demand here, this person takes their work really seriously, maybe that turns into a larger show if they want it to. And so, I think Jesse said, smoothly ratcheting. It doesn't have to go from 0 to 100 all in one day or in 1 week, but allowing people to slowly build that audience of others who respect their work and are willing to help them financially is really exciting.
Thanks.
Yes, hey guys, thank you. I have one question. So I basically a follow-up question. I feel one of the most important parts right now is especially the community building. You probably have learned now a lot over the last couple of years. If you would start basically a new community now, what more or less would be your approach that you would follow? Maybe you even haven't started properly yet. Are you thinking about it, and how would you approach it?
I can give you a short answer and you can dive in. So I think the most important thing with the community is it's going to sound trite, but it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. And I would much rather have 10 people who are best friends than 100 people who barely know each other. And so the secret that we somehow stumbled into was inviting people to come to our dingy, sandy gallery in Venice Beach with no shoes on and go through this weird minting ritual where, like, we would sit them down in the back room on a stool like this and, like, get them all pumped up to see a pixelated character, and they would run out in the room and it would show up on the screen and a group full of people would cheer for them, and then they'd all go out for a beer afterwards. Turned out to be really powerful. Like, it doesn't have to be rocket science, it doesn't require you to do something crazy, it requires you to create space for people that have a shared interest and then basically get out of the way. I think that's the first step, and then the second is it should be participatory. so the people that are just joining the community have an easy way to understand what's going on and provide value to others. And one of the ways that we do that is we try to have governance, we try to have voting. With crypto, it comes out of the box, and so by giving people these tokens, you can do it. The first step is often to get them a wallet, which is much less common than you would think. I think everyone in here in this room probably has a non-custodial wallet, whether it's Coinbase wallet or MetaMask, and if you don't, I highly encourage you to get one. It's like in 1994 listening to a panel about the internet and they tell you to download a browser. Like, trust me, it's gonna be useful. You're gonna want Chrome on your computer, like, it's gonna be great. And so like a lot of what we do is we give people these technology and then we just allow them to share with each other, and that has been the strongest thing for us. And we're not perfect, we're still figuring it out. It's like, we feel sometimes more like a family than a company, and families sometimes have like fights, but that's what a community does, and then they get over it and they hug each other. I don't know, that's my answer.
Yeah, from our side, so we did a lot of regular marketing stuff to give exposure to a project. For example, write blog posts, do giveaways and raffles, whatever, and put YouTube videos. But the most exposure were like partnerships. For example, we teamed up with Ready Player Me. They provided us their cool 3D avatars. We integrated Chainlink to also get in their community, and today we're here. We partnered up with NFT Club Berlin. It's like a local Berlin NFT community, and they gave us exposure by curating an exhibition. So I think the key at the moment is to have some partners, some integrations, some people that already have some communities, and try to collaborate with them.
I just wanted to,
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. A question to Dezentral. Like we were talking about curation and how to do that, but it's kind of like self-curating in your case, right? Like every frame owner can decide what to put there. So if I look at a real-world museum, then it's usually like curated as a larger concept, right? Like we have an exhibition of XYZ or a topic or a time zone or something. And how do you tend to do these type of things? Like you dedicate a room for a certain thing and then people can only exhibit there these things, but how do you do that with the original goal of everybody can exhibit what they want on their frame?
So in the first place, it was an experiment to see how decentralized art distribution can look like and what will the people do with it. So yeah, everybody can upload their images to the museum, and it can even be born or whatever. We can't do anything about it because it's decentralized. It's an experiment. But to counterattack this thing, we built 2 curated exhibition rooms that's curated by our community and curated by us, where we have like exhibitions that are a bit more themed and have a direction, art direction. And yeah, so to have this mix between the curated exhibitions and the decentralized exhibition. Yeah, but yeah, it's an experiment. And
hello, here. Thank you very much for sharing with us. I think it's really inspiring. Speaking about what are the next steps that a person needs to do in order to start with crypto, if we have to narrow it down, maybe the 3 actions that someone that hasn't invested at all in NFT for art specifically, what do they need to do? What can we recommend them to do? And my second question, also apart from art, in which sectors do you think that NFTs have the biggest potential? Thank you.
I will pass to these, but there are 2 types. Either do you want to invest and make profits, or do you want to invest in an artist and just support him or her? Yeah.
Well, why not?
Okay. So if you want to support an artist, just buy the NFTs of your friends or artists you like, and don't it's without the goal to make profits from it, right? Yeah.
this is not financial advice. I feel the need to say that before I respond any further. I think the first, if you are hoping to get onboarded into crypto and you have no experience whatsoever, the best thing you can do is find a community that already exists that can help answer your questions, because 10 minutes in conversation with someone who's knowledgeable will save you weeks or months of time. And people in this space are very willing to share. It's part of the evangelizing that I think is part of the culture. So like, after this, I'd be happy to get into more detail, but I think you need to download a non-custodial wallet, and what that means is you control your funds. You have a seed phrase. It's not owned by a company. It's not owned by an institution. Your money and your funds are yours. And so I mentioned a few earlier, Coinbase Wallet is great, highly recommend it. MetaMask is another good option. Once you have that, you should try to interact with websites that allow you to authenticate using your public key. And whenever you generate one of these wallets, you get a public key. Your private key is something you keep secret, and that is your username across all of Web3. And that's the thing that a lot of people are really excited about. If you're going to purchase an NFT and you want to do it in a way that is relatively safe and is highly useful in the future, I would recommend Ethereum name service. It's like buying a domain name, but it tags to your public address. So rather than saying, hey, send funds to 0x57FB, you say send funds to phil.eth, and people can do that and you can tag it. And ENS is an NFT, you can trade it, it follows the standard, and it is just a fantastic service. So I think that's like 1, 2, 3. That's a lot of what we do when we bring people into our gallery. And then if they want to go down the rabbit hole of like learning about different types of art, we just try to introduce them. In terms of profit, I have no idea. I'm trying to figure it out though. Yeah.
What was the second question?
NFTs apart from art.
What was it?
Outside art. Also, where do you see the biggest potential for NFTs?
The utility of NFTs outside of art.
Yeah, for personal.
I think we're still learning the answer to that question. I think we feel art is a great visual way to represent NFTs for the amount of technology that goes underneath it. A lot of people talk about music NFTs as being another industry that will be onboarded. I think it's still very fuzzy on how that will work. Supply chain, there's always there's like a lot of different protocols. Like blockchain as a technology doesn't have to be used for cryptocurrency. Like the technology is just a public ledger that allows you to track things across, a network. So there are actually companies that have developed protocols that are used for very specific utilities, like tracking energy. Like, can we actually proof of origin where energy is created? You think about clean energy, greenwashing is a big problem, where people are like, oh, I'm using clean energy, give me carbon credits. But no one can actually prove that they bought wind energy from somewhere. So in this case, blockchain technology is a perfect use case for actually proving, creation of that energy unit, and then someone that actually used it and burned it later in the life cycle. There's a lot of, I think, like public utilities that, voting is another huge one. How can we see things that need transparency and trust in a system where a lot of us actually question, certain institutions that have lost that trust factor with their communities and citizens. So I think those things will come naturally, but I think it's just a matter of time for larger scale adoption.
Real estate, I think also.
Real estate, yeah.
Okay, so I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions.
So, well, thank you for your insights. Also, as a follow-up to the first question regarding artists getting into the NFT world, I believe the wider the community grows, the more richer will it be, and the more art will be created there. So, what would be the main incentives for a traditional artist, let's say, to jump into this digital world? Would it be visibility? Would it be, I don't know, money? Would it be, what's your take on it?
I think you have to answer that question for yourself. Like as an artist, that we work with tons of different artists, and always the first question is, what is the goal of this project? Is it money? Is it charity? Is it awareness? Is it for fun? And really aligning on that objective really drives the rest of the project. I think for a traditional artist that may already have an audience or is attempting to build an audience, it's just a new channel to distribute your work and potentially capture non-traditional art collectors in a way that might be exposed to art. I think that's the beautiful thing about crypto, is that we have tons of individuals that are really into DeFi and crypto and trading that are now being mixed into this world of art and collectibles, which actually is a whole new audience for artists to now actually go and say, hey, here's cool things that you guys actually may be interested in. We think of like traditional gallery settings, you may never find those people in a gallery. So I think it actually is just a new audience that is willing to actually support artists, which is really cool.
Okay, question to Bright Moments. So you said you guys have a DAO where the crypto billionaires or whoever citizens can then vote on. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to mint one, but what exactly is your plan on, like, what can you vote in the end? Like, or in your personal program right now, like, what kind of decisions do you take in the team, and which type of decisions do you take to the DAO, and how do you make a decision about how to do that?
Yeah, so we have a framework for this, and I think a lot of DAOs, well, there's a lot of, I'm going to put this in air quotes, like thought leadership around DAOs and decentralized governance, and should you vote on everything, should you vote on nothing? We fall, I would say, somewhere along the spectrum of completely centralized to decentralized in a hybrid model, where I firmly believe that it does not work to have people vote on everything. We've all been in situations where there's a committee that gets created and you sit on it for weeks on end and nobody can make a decision and there's not a decision maker and it drags on and it's terrible. And what we try to do is vote on things where having more voices increases the quality of the decision that is made. And when you can find a decision where more people contributing actually gets you to converge on the better outcome, that is a great candidate for a vote. That's one option. The other time when you vote is when you need to have legitimacy around a decision that's going to impact the community in the future. And so there are times where we've all experienced this. There's a centralized corporation that makes a change to a policy, and that policy is maybe not in the best interests of the users of the application, but the centralized team has made a decision to change it. I'll use, the App Store, for example. I think Apple has created this amazing public utility of an app store. I can download an app and trust that it's not going to put a virus on my phone. Like, that is worth a tremendous amount of value. But they've made policy decisions that as a user of the App Store, I don't love. I'm not able to, use apps that require cryptocurrency. I can't use apps that have payments inside of them like Netflix because Apple takes 30%. If you as an organization are going to make a policy decision that's going to affect your users or your community, it's worth putting it up for a vote because if that vote passes, there's now legitimacy around that policy decision and that change that you can reference in the future. And so I think in those two areas, if having more people helps improve the quality, do it. And if you need legitimacy around a decision, or if you need to have a temperature check as a core team that what you're doing is the right path, that's another time. Most decisions do not fall into either of those categories, and in those cases you need a core team that you trust a lot, and there's a high amount of transparency between the operations and the community, because otherwise you're not going to move fast enough, and a centralized company is going to beat you in your mission, and that's not a good thing. That's my take on it.
Like, for example, the hire of a team member, would that be a vote?
I do not believe so. I believe a hiring decision is something that is very much required on the abilities of that person, and I think hiring decisions should be made by a small group of people who will be working closely with them, because team chemistry is very important. And let's say, for example, you're going to hire an executive. If you get told to hire an executive by the community that you do not get along with, or that you have terrible team chemistry with, even if they're the most credentialed person in the room, it's not going to work out well, and you're going to spend a lot of resources of the community, and it's ultimately not going to be a good thing. So I don't believe in most cases hiring decisions should be voted on. What I do think is that you can run a process similar to what the Supreme Court in the United States does, where the core team can nominate a person and the community needs to approve that vote. And so in those cases, my suggestion would be run a hiring process, find 2 or 3 candidates that you believe would all be good options, and then allow the community to choose from those. And so I think this curation is much better when it comes to people that are spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week living this versus a community member who might spend 5 minutes to vote on it.
Thank you. Thank you, Fabu. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Phil. And thank you all of you for coming. This is amazing, wonderful questions. If you want to see more panels like this, more presentations, a larger crypto community, a thriving crypto community in Berlin, please tell your friends that you enjoyed this and want to come back. Stick around. The panelists will be here to answer your questions outside. We have a food truck, we have beer, we have wine. Make some friends, make some noise, and have a good time. Thank you.